Hey guys, ILene Vick here for Adult Coloring with ILene Vick, and in this series of videos I am going to be highlighting the adult coloring book author Helen Elliston. And as you can see, Helen is the author creator of Inky Galaxy, among other books, which I'm going to talk about in a couple minutes. I've been following Helen's work, and I've seen her books, and I've seen her on Facebook and the web and so forth. And so about, I don't know, a month ago or 2 months ago, I don't remember what it was, but I got a hold of Helen, and I told her that I enjoyed working with coloring books, but what I like to do is to add and subtract from the pages and just basically change them up a little bit to make new creations. And when I do that, I create videos to teach people how to do that, because I'm not an illustrator. I love adult coloring, I love creating stuff, but I'm not an illustrator. I love coloring, and teaching, of course, is my big thing. So Helen gets back in touch with me and says, hey, yeah, sure, we can do that. And I said, well, I'll tell you what, send me the book that you want me to talk about. I like the Inky Galaxy one, and she said, okay, I'll send you that one. So she sent it to me, and I got it, I want to say about a week ago or 2 weeks ago, but because of my schedule and doing some other videos, I wasn't able to get to her book yet. But now I can. I'm excited about that. So in doing this video, I also wanted to include the information about Helen, and so please look at the description of this YouTube video, because all her information is there. I'm going to talk about it as well, but you'll get more information when you go ahead and read the information that I'm posting for her. The big thing I wanted to tell you about, it's interesting because I didn't know that she had done this. I know she did the various books, the coloring books, because I did Inky Ocean. I've got that one, and I did the ones with the scuba divers coming up with the bubble. I did the scuba divers in Inky Ocean. And the neat thing is that I changed on that, because, you know, I like to change up. Now, I didn't add or subtract anything on this one, but what I did is I did the scuba divers like in short scuba instead of the long, and then I added the colorful fins, and this bubble was there, but I added a lot of other little bubbles. So this is what I did with her work. And by the way, if you don't know this, for background, this is eyeshadow. You can use eyeshadow to do backgrounds instead of using pencil. I've done a video on how to use eyeshadow for backgrounds. It's in the listing on YouTube. Look it up. And it's a really neat way to do some quick coloring. And it works beautifully. I mean, it just really does. Anyway, so tonight I wanted to work on Inky Galaxy. Oh, let me go back. List of books that Helen has done. She's done Inky Ocean, Inky Garden, Inky Mandels, Inky Mandelas, Mix, Inky Extreme, Inky Lifestyle, Inky Dinky Blossom, Inky Galaxy, and Inky Whimsy. So I've got Inky Galaxy, and you knowing me, I'm going to do my little cut and paste stuff and move stuff around, and then we can just have a lot of fun with it. Now, again, I will repeat for my beginners that watch my videos, you can do this. Remember that. I always do videos that beginners can do, and I will not lose you in the shuffle. You can follow along. Now, for intermediates, if you want to follow my lead and continue on with what I'm doing, have at it. That's the whole idea, for you to spark ideas. You know that I was doing this with the Selena Fenish books, the mermaids, and adding things and moving the mermaids, and added a Selena Fenish mermaid to a Johanna Basford page, crediting them, of course. But oh my gosh, there's just tons of things you can do, and that's what I get excited about. So where I can't create original hand-drawn stuff, I can create original pieces with the composites and showing you how to do that. Okay, so in this particular project, I'm going to work with 2 pages on this. And the first one is this one, which is the female astronaut. Now, what's going to be really important is when you're working this, you need to break the binding of the book. Now, to get it to lay flat, I opened the book and I picked it up and I put it against the edge of the table and I bent the book backwards over the edge. See how I'm doing that? So right now where my finger is under the binding, just pretend that was the edge of your table. So your table's running, this way. You want the book to run this way, and you want to what's called break the binding. Be careful because the stitching of the book, you don't want to completely pull it apart. Okay, so this is the main piece. I'm going to cut from it, and then I'm going to add to. So the other piece that I'm going to work with this, I can't wait, is the dog. Okay, do you see where I'm going with this? This dog is so cute. I saw that and I thought, oh man, I can just see this coming together. So I'm going to work with the dog and I'm going to transfer this image after I reduce it in size onto this page. So let's get started with that. All right, now there are 2 ways that you can do this, and again, don't let this throw you because it's totally doable. So here is the image of the dog that I reduced on the copier. Now again, you've heard me say this ad nauseum. When I make copies, I don't make copies to give away. I make copies to work with the images. In fact, this is a little bit yellow because it's not intended to be copied on. But what I did is I reduced it. It's 30% of the original size. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to you fold this. I think this is going to be so cute. I'm going to take the image of this dog and I'm going to tilt it a little bit and I'm going to transfer it onto this page so that the 2 helmets are kissing each other, and it's just like the astronaut, the female astronaut, because you can see where her hand is and where the dog's going to end up, is holding the dog in her arms while she's looking at it. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Now, it's a very straightforward process, nothing complex. And then depending on how elaborate I want to get, I may end up making this a 2-page spread this way. We'll see. I'm going to start with the dog and I'm just going to decide on the 2-page part as I go along. All right. As you've seen in one of my previous videos, I showed you how to very easily transfer images without having to use messy pencil. And in a nutshell, what you do is you lay your image down where you want to transfer it, and you use a size 07 Pilot pen. You get that because you want that deep groove. And you want to lay it down where you want your image and you trace it firmly onto the surface or the page where you want the image to be. And then what happens with that, and let's see if I can show you that. Oh yeah, there we go. Okay, I'm going to pick you up and move you a little bit. You see where that really light line is? Yeah, it's traced. And then what you're going to do is take a very narrow pen and you're going to run the pen in the groove, in effect by tracing over the image. Now, the way you're going to do that is with a very fine line pen. And the 7 pen is a 7mm pen. The 5 is a 0.5 millimeter. And I found a 0.28 size pen, Uniball Sango. Look at the top. See it right there? 0.28. Very, very, very narrow line. So when you take this pen and put it in that groove to transfer the image, it transfers it beautifully because the narrow pen stays in the little divot. Alright, so you don't have to cut anything if you don't want. You could transfer the image directly on the paper, but the problem is with this, if I do that, now again I'm going to line up their eyes, right, because that's what's going to make this look really cool. And if I lift that, you're going to see that the spacesuit of the dog covers some mountains here. And Helen has drawn in some little floral curlicues here. And I really don't want that on that. And even though I'm going to color over this, I just don't want that coming up through. So I'm going to show you a little method to fix that. And again, if you don't want to do it this way because it involves an X-Acto knife and cutting, or a pair of scissors and cutting, you don't have to do that. You can just trace your image on top and then color it, which I will be doing later, but I will be tracing on top of clear paper because I will have eliminated this part. Alright, so tilt you a little bit here. I'm going to turn my book. What I've done is I've used a standard file folder as my cutting mat. Now, the really neat thing on this is Helen has blank pages in the back. Thank you, Helen, because I've cut apart books that have had images on the top and then I have to buy more books. Good for the author, but kind of hard on my pocketbook. But anyway, Helen, you know, most of us like it when artists don't have images on both sides, because if we're using markers or whatever, they bleed through. So Helen's books are not illustrated on both sides, which is really great. So what I'm going to get out, you can use scissors if you want, but you've seen this before. I'm going to use my handy X-Acto knife, very sharp. I mean, if I push hard enough, I'd bleed. Nothing personal, guys, but I'm not going to bleed for you, at least intentionally. So I'm going to take my X-Acto knife, and what I'm going to do, let me position you a little bit. I'm going to tilt you, so there's camera angle there for you. I'm going to take my X-Acto knife, and I'm going to cut out that little floral part. So watch how I do this. I'm not going to detach the book from here on down. I'm going to leave that attached. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn this just a little bit more because I'm right-handed. There we go. I'm going to start cutting out that floral part. So watch how I do that. I'm right next to the ink. And I'm going to maintain, if I can, that black line of the mountain. Now, if your hand gets a little wobbly and you end up cutting out that black line, it's fixable, don't panic. But do cut as close as possible without cutting away the actual black line. And all I'm doing right now is I'm tracing around with my very sharp X-Acto knife. Now, I could cut that off, but, you know, let's not. Let's take the time to do this right. And I'm just very, very carefully cutting that away. Now, what I'm also going to do is take my X-Acto knife and cut the page out. Don't press too hard. You don't want to cut out the pages that are behind it. There we go. But again, I'm not going to pull that out all the way because, of course, I want it to stop where the mountain is. All right, so let's keep going. So I'm tracing with my knife around the mountains. She'll be come around the mountain when she comes, yeah. And just very, very carefully. And the thing is, I can let my knife, go up a little further, and I don't go into the mask because we need that, of course. Oh, so anyway, about Helen. Helen is 41 years old, and she lives in Devon, United Kingdom. And she, in addition to doing the coloring books, as I mentioned, has been doing those novels. So that pleasantly surprised me because I really didn't know that extra little piece about her. And her novels are on Amazon.com. And let's see, she says that her novels are romantic and suspenseful thrillers. That's how she describes them. Let's see, she's got 5 novels. They're called Tick Tock Run, Think Fast, Die Last, Shiver Sweet, Played by You, and Played by Them. And it's under the name of H.C. Elliston. So H.C. Elliston on Amazon. So pop out there and take a look. So she's a novelist and she's an adult coloring book author. Cool. And she's an illustrator. She loves illustrating and artsy stuff. And so in 2015, she started work on her first coloring book. And she says, boy, she really worked on that because she wanted to get it to a point that she would be very proud to put it out there for the general public. Because, of course, when you have illustrations, you want to be happy with your own work. All right, see how I'm following that now with this knife? And see how cleanly that's coming out? Okay, so I'm doing the mountain. And I'm going to cut out, nothing personal, Helen, the frilly stuff, because I don't need that for this. And I'm just going to cut right up to the space suit. Let's see what that is. Okay. And over and up. Oops. Ending up on the line a little bit. That's okay. That can be fixed. Okay, now we need to watch our little squiggles here because we've got an air tube. Don't want to cut the air tube, do we? And notice how I'm changing the direction of the knife in order just to get into my little divots. I'm twisting the knife around in order to be in that little direction that I need to be. And see, right now as I'm going around this, I'm making like teeny tiny cuts, like, 1/8 of an inch maybe, just to get those little segments out. Okay, now I'm at the bottom. I'm going to tilt you so you can see. Yep, let me get you tilted up just a little more. And I am pressing pretty firmly. Now again, if you're not comfortable cutting this segment out, don't. You can still transfer the dog image on top of the existing paper. You can do it either way. Let me pull in just a little bit. And take your time. Sometimes my knife drifts a little bit outward, so I just have to pick it up and get back on track. Don't get in a hurry. And remember, it doesn't matter if you cut up, you know, here, because we're going to get rid of that. See where I went straight up with the cut? But look how nicely that's coming out. Isn't that cool? And if it doesn't pull out, see, I got a little... Kind of reminds me of paper dowels. Remember paper dowels where you had to punch them out? If it doesn't come out cleanly, recut. There you go. Okay. So, down the back. And let's see what we have here. Okay, this is, let me pull out here before I talk about stuff that you can't see. And tilt you down a little bit. There you go. This is the air pack, so we don't want to be cutting that out, so I want to very carefully go down into that little groove and come back up because I want that air pack. I'm sure the astronaut does as well. Okay, so I'm going to just go out that way, pull that off. So my choice now is to either cut down around this curve or cut over. I think I'm going to cut over because otherwise I think it's going to look a little funny to have a sudden dip like that. Okay, so I'm going to cut that out. And please pull your paper off gently, because if you have a segment that isn't quite cut through, you'll tear your paper, of course. Okay. Now, before I turn the paper, I'm going to cut this out because this is part of something like the little floral stuff. And I think it's going to look kind of funny if we leave it, because it doesn't fit in with the rest of the image now that I've cut out this other floral stuff. And by the way, if you want to see any of these pages colored that have not been changed like I'm changing it, Helen does tutorials. She did her little astronaut on the moon swing. Oh my gosh, that was so pretty. And she put speckles on it like stardust. Glitter, I think it was. Oh, that was brave. I wouldn't have done that. You know, I mean, not that I wouldn't do it as an artist. That's not what I meant. What I meant was I wouldn't have messed around with the sparkles. So she did, and it looks really cute. Love it. Okay. So let me back you up just a little bit, because now I've got to do the rest of the jetpack. Okay, so let's see, I think I'm going to, actually I'm going to leave this and I'll tell you why. Let me zoom in on one segment of it here. There. See these little pieces that end right here? If I cut this off, then you're going to still have these little images here, and it's going to stop at the edge of the pack, and it's not going to make sense. So what I'm going to do is I will continue those with ink. I'll draw them in, and I'll draw this in, which is the moon or planet base, because the other thing is we have other floral-like curves in here, so this will visually line up with this. Now remember, I've cut out some floral pieces up here, but that's okay because of course that's just part of everything that I'm doing. So my point being, when you cut, look at what you're cutting and make sure that you think it through as to what the final piece is going to look like after you cut. Alright, so now I've got to gently pull this out. Boy, that knife's sharp, isn't it? Let me put it down before I do something stupid with it, which, knowing me, is extremely possible. Pull very, very gently. I'm going to contradict myself because I got to push out that little mountaintop. There we go. Okay, that little piece doesn't want to come out. Let's get that gently. There you go. That's where you don't want to get into a hurry. Trust me, this will be well worth it. Alright. There's the edge, there's the edge. Alright, we did it! Woo-woo! Alright. Let me turn you around. Let me turn my book around. Look at that. Is that not cool? Oh my gosh, you could almost just color that. Isn't that neat? Okay. So, we've got that cut out. And let me lift you up a little bit here so you can see, because watch, when I go to turn the page now, see, I've got that much of the page left. So here is where you truly do need to be careful because you don't want to rip out the rest of this. Okay. Alright, so we're at 22 minutes. I'm still going to continue a little bit. Don't want to bore you to death. So now I'm going to take a piece of 8.5 by 11, basically high-grade computer paper. The paper is 96 bright. It is 20-pound weight paper, and that pretty well matches the paper that was used in this particular coloring book. The coloring book feels a little bit thicker, but for what we're doing here, this is fine. So let me move out my file folder that I cut against. Look at that, isn't that funny now? She's got her head against the next page, which is the rocket. That's so neat. So now I'm going to take my 8.5 by 11 paper. I'm going to tuck it into the edge. Now, some of you, depending on what you want to use, depending on how long you're going to keep your works, I'm just going to use standard tape. If you're going to archive your pieces, realize that eventually your tape is going to discolor. So if that concerns you, do the research, find the tape that you can use so that that doesn't happen. Alright, so what I'm doing now is I'm taking a piece of tape, back you off a little bit here. I'm going to tuck my sheet of paper in there. I'm going to take my tape and I'm going to tape in the page. There we go. And I would suggest, now remember, your page only goes up this far, so tape it up to that point. Okay. And then I'm going to flip this over carefully and crease it. Now again, depending on how you want to archive your colorings, look how cool that is, by the way. See, we've got a completely clear background now. Is that not sweet? So depending on how you want to archive your pieces, I actually have sticky tape that's sticky on two sides. So I'm going to flip that over. I'm going to put my sticky tape up here without getting my fingers all over it. I'm going to use little pieces now to get near the edge to tape down the rest of this. And I'm going to carefully put a piece of tape up near the top, which is the jetpack, if you recall. And then I'm going to flip this entire thing over. Let me turn you back this way. And pulling out gently to the right, I'm going to carefully lay this down and seal that down. Okay? Now, ultimately, see where this little mountain is coming up? That's coming up. I'm going to use a little bit of Elmer's glue and just dab that on there and paste. Dab it on there, paste. But I'm not going to do that in the video because right now that'll be a waste of your precious time. Okay, so if you have decided to cut out the background like I showed you, this is how your piece should look. All right? If you decided that you weren't comfortable with that, then your piece is going to have that background that you left in there. See, I want to show you something here. This is from Johanna Bosford and some pieces that I've cut out. Don't throw them away because they may be useful for some other things like drawing curves and so forth. So hold on to them for a while. All right, so now we're to the point where we can go ahead and I'm just going to show you how that's going to work with the dog and the placement of it. What I did is I cut that little extra flap off from the paper that I had folded over to show you the initial placement. And we're running about 29 minutes now. Okay, so being careful not to bend my mountain over because that's a teeny tiny piece of paper. In fact, I'm just going to gently bend it down a little bit so I don't exactly accidentally pull it up. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to line up the dog with the female astronaut. Now, as you'll notice, there's a little crease over here because I had done this earlier. So when I lined up my dog, I creased it so I would have the proper angle. So now I'm going to shift my dog just to the point where, and you know what, I'm going to cut something that I noticed here. Bear with me for a second. I'm going to cut around that little helmet. So go ahead and do that as well. Just at the top for your placement. See, I want to just get rid of that extra paper. Alright, so now I'm going to let my paper kind of rest in the divot there that I had lined up earlier. You can do that if it helps you, that's up to you. And now I'm going to carefully lower the dog so that she is looking directly at him. And I'm going to move it over, so I'm going to come out of my divot a little bit, it looks like, and that's fine. So that the two helmets are touching. Is that not neat? Look at that. So make sure, because that's the whole key to this piece, that they are looking exactly at each other. So if you put the dog upright like this, it's not going to necessarily align because it kind of looks like the vision of the dog is going out this way. Rotate your dog until it looks like to you that he's looking right at her, and touch the helmets together. Okay? Again, be careful you don't bend your mountain pieces. Now, if you don't want to touch your helmet pieces, that's fine, but I just thought, oh man, that would be just so cute. Cuteness overload. Okay. Now, on the outside of the helmet, because I cut the paper, I'm going to go ahead and gently and very, very lightly with a mechanical pencil, I'm just going to trace that. Like super, super light, okay? But the other method that I showed you, and let me come in here, and I showed you in my other video as to how to transfer without this being messy. You take your number 7 Pilot pen, because you want that width of line, the groove, and you take your Pilot pen and you very firmly, 9 or 10, I mean I'm talking firm here. Now stop at the edge of your paper. I went over a little bit, that's okay. But I am pushing very hard. Not to the point where the ink comes through, if you can help it. But what happens is, okay, now that's already there. Let me pull you back a little bit so you can see the bottom, what I'm doing. Is I'm tracing the helmet firmly onto the paper. And what's happening is it is creating a groove. Now, I'm going to hold on to this because I'm going to go ahead and trace the collar. Take your time. You can do little short segments if you want. And go right to the edge of my paper. And again, I'm pushing pretty firmly. Okay. Now, I'm going to trace firmly the outside of the dog. And again, I am using quite a bit of pressure. 9 or a 10 out of 10. Whoop. And if your line goes squiggle a little bit, don't worry about it too much. Just be careful when you go to trace in the groove that you don't squiggle with it. Let's get that little nose in there. I'm going to thicken that a little bit. I'm going to skip over the dog fur for a minute and just get the basic head outlined. Okay, let me pull that up a little bit. I'm hoping you can see that indent. If not, I'll zoom in on it in a little bit. Yeah, see, you can see part of it right there. Okay, so now I'm going to trace this line. Then I'm going to trace this line, the fur. Now honestly, you don't have to worry too much about being exact with this because you're just squiggling for fur anyway. So when you go to draw this in, it's not going to be that big of an issue. It's things like the helmet that you want to make sure that you have the accurate line to work in the divot. Okay, I'm just working in the eyeball there. Okay. All right, let me move over a little bit. So I'm going to do the fur. I'm going to pull out just a tad so you can see. Now, right now, I'm just going to outline the fur. And the reason that I'm not concerned about the lines on the inside is because we will draw them in later. Just get the basic outline done. And by the way, if your pen gets weird and skips a little bit, don't worry about that because it's not the ink that you're transferring, it's the divot into the paper. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, check out my video that talks about that. What I really like about using this method is because I'm using the indent and using the pen on top, I can tell what I've traced and what I haven't. So that's pretty cool. Let's see, we've got a piece that goes this way. And again, my pen skipped, but I know I was over it, so I'm not going to worry about that. Yeah, there we go. So just look and see where you need to trace. And again, we're just doing the outside of the fur because we're going to add the lines when we go to do the rest of this. Having said that, if you feel better tracing all of those lines, have at it. Up to you. Whatever works for you. Okay. Yeah. I know it's hard to see, but it is there. Okay, now I'm going to come down and work on the spacesuit. I can feel where the edge of my paper is. One thing I am doing is I'm going ahead and tracing the spacesuit. Let me show you that. So it goes onto the other page, because if I decide to make this a 2-pager, we're going to have to continue this. So please save your tracing template. Don't throw it away like I threw out my moon that I had cut out, or planet, or whatever it was. Okay, let me back up. Now, it doesn't matter if well, it can. Just try and keep your lines as straight as possible. There we go. And come down. Okay. Now, I'm not going to worry about the pattern on the lines at the moment, because we can fill that in as well. Let me see something here. Okay. All right. So I'm traced. Again, save this. And let me zoom in. There you go. See? There's the eye. Let me do something here. Whoop. Get my brush. All right, look very carefully. All right. Here's the nose, right? Here's the bottom of the mouth. Here's the eyes. Here's the globe that's going around. Back up for you. Here's the collar. Here's all the fur that we're going to do. Okay. So, nose right here, forehead, fur. Let me get this original back so you can see. Here, take a quick peek. See that? In fact, let me bend it down and put it side by side for you. It's going to be the best way for you to see it. There. See it? If you look, you can see where the nose is. You can see where the top of the fur is. Alright? So nose, nose, forehead, forehead, eye, eye. Okay? And another reason for keeping this is as we fill this in, we're going to have to use this for reference. Okay? Alright, so I'm at 45 minutes, and what I'll do next time is I will trace in the dog, and then I'm going to think about seeing about expanding this over this way. I don't want to overload you with too much images. I just want to give you the basic techniques so you can see how fun this is. Alright, so again, when we're done, you're going to have your dog going helmet to helmet with the female astronaut, and because of the way her hands are, let me pull back a little bit, the way her hands are, it's going to look like she's got her hands on his suit. Well guys, I hope that helped you. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that you enjoyed the information that I gave you about Helen. Again, I will give you complete references in the description. Please take the time to take a look and go visit her pages. She's got great stuff. She really does. Because you know what? If she didn't, I wouldn't be doing this. Alright guys, this is ILene Vick for Adult Coloring with ILene Vick. God bless you and happy coloring. Bye.